Okay, at this point, we really are recording the class. And if you're curious how you can tell, it's going to be that little red box right there. It says live. It's really kind of small, even on my screen. If that box is missing, that means the class is not being recorded. And you're always welcome to interject to remind me to make sure it does get recorded. Okay, about 1 more minute to go. The math department really is serious about us starting right on the minute. So I usually will actually run the clock to the actual minute before we get going. But welcome everyone. I think we can actually officially start. But the good news is if you come through that door right at 2:30, I promise you, you haven't missed any vital class information. The one way I might actually be doing math before class starts is if any one of you have a question, then it's completely fair game. But if I feel that question is important for class, anything I do here, I might actually save and put on the note so that's just available to everyone. But welcome everyone. This is College Algebra. It's a pretty big class that we have today of about 24 students. And our goal today is really just the information you need to know to get started. We'll be running through the syllabus, talking about the Moodle website that we have turned to right here, the different organizations, office hours, things like that. And if we have some time at the very end, we might start section 3.1. But my goal is to not make major headway into that, more just to help us out with getting started. So today's kind of a question and answers kind of day. So I'll start with everyone here today. Any burning questions you want to start with right away? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, say again. I would say it's probably pretty similar. I've never personally taught Algebra 2. I think you're referring to kind of high school curriculum. It's going to be pretty similar. There might be some things that are completely new, but we'll get through them, but a good amount of overlap. Again, I haven't seen the Algebra 2 curriculum in a pretty long time, but from my memory, that's how I would phrase it. So if I had to throw out numbers, maybe 30% similar, the rest, various degrees of new and unfamiliar. Other questions at the moment? Okay, well, I guess to start out, probably the most important thing, the most important resource would be the actual Moodle website. So if you're new to ISU, you can get through there through the Bengal web, or you can just put into your browser elearn.isu.edu, and I'll take you right where you want to go, right to our Moodle system. Then our class, you're probably going to see all of your classes here. You should, if they're not, something's possibly wrong if it's missing. But ours will be this one right here. This is just a screenshot of the textbook we're going to be using. And essentially everything we do in class runs through this website right here. So let's go through the first page here of the different resources. Our syllabus is available, but I don't want to do a complete reading of this, more of just a skim and asking questions on various sections. So I'll leave some of the more detailed reading to folks in the class. And probably the most important thing you don't want to leave off on this document is not actually written by me at all. It's written by the university and the math department. And it starts right here at the very, very end, university resources. There's a lot of information here of different nature, accessibility, academic integrity, how to be successful, student services, and so on. This one could be pretty useful as well, complaints, grievances. If something happens in your class, this one or another one that you feel just isn't right, you have rights as students as well. So being familiar with this document, Title IX, and so on, is very, very important. If you've seen it before, I'd say just skim through it. But if you've never read a syllabus like this before, I'd probably do a careful reading of each of these resources. If you have any questions about them, don't hesitate to reach out. So with that out of the way, let's go to the very top. The first thing is, well, you know where you're at College Algebra. I'm Michael Jacobson. You can refer to me as Mike, Michael, Jacob, or Jacobson. I'm not too worried about any of that stuff. Sorry, say again? I'd say Mike is my preference if you want to stick to just one. So you could just say, hey, Mike, and he'll always be okay with that. Oh, gotcha. Well, we'll figure out some way. You can call me Miguel if you prefer, just to differentiate it out. Well, also, we've all figured out where the room is, so a lot of this stuff on the syllabus is kind of redundant. We'll meet here every Tuesday and Thursday. If there's for some reason, a day we can't meet, I'll always let you know at least a week in advance. If, for example, there's just some weird act of God, like say California had a hurricane and a magnitude 5 earthquake all in one day, something like that happens, I'll probably just be on Zoom and I'll give everyone access so you can join the class. And in the worst case scenarios, everything we do in class, my goal is to have recorded, and it's all going to end up on the Moodle website right under that link right here called recorded lectures. If you click on that, it's blank right now. I don't have anything currently uploaded, but after class is over, the very next day in the early morning, that's when I add the recording to the playlist and it'll appear right here. Other questions at the moment? Okay.
This is probably something you're going to touch on later, but the Alex that was mentioned for the class. Is that something you need to purchase? Is that something that's provided?
It's something that will be needed to purchase. Yeah. And yeah, we do want to spend a lot of time just talking about Alex itself. One of the major reasons we're not doing a ton of math today, we'll just see where we end up. If there's a lot of questions, then that would be a good day if we didn't even touch on the math. So there's various things to do here. I did send out a mass email, but it's been about 2 weeks. So if you joined the class a little bit early, you might have missed it. But if you bought the Alex Access code through the bookstore, it's something around the neighborhood of about $130. It's really expensive. They mark up by around 30%. If you're not opposed to that, you've donated to the university effectively, and that's okay. But if you've purchased it and you haven't scratched off the code, you can return it and save a little bit of additional money. If you purchase Alex strictly online, we're going to go through those steps on how that works. And I have a note here. It comes to about $96, which is a pretty good savings. That is really rough right around this time of year, back to school. I don't know too many people have $96 disposable income necessarily. And so there's also this financial aid access code right here. It gives you 2 weeks of temporary access where you don't have to purchase anything in that meantime. But does that address your question so far? Gotcha. Other questions at the moment? Okay, well, let's jump back to the syllabus. Other things that probably is more important is the contact information. There's a number of ways you can get a hold of me. You can just simply give me a text message, call, or a voicemail. It's not the most immediate platform for me since my phone is often silenced. It's usually silenced the entire time I'm at work, for example. Another avenue I didn't put on the syllabus, but it is fair game. If you go to the Moodle website, go to this right here, you can just send me a direct message through Moodle, and that would be completely appropriate as well. And the third message or third way is right through my ISU email address. My email address is, or my email client is just always open. And so I'm pretty responsive there. If I'm in the office, I try to get to your emails right away, whether I'm at home or at work office. Other questions so far, folks, at the moment? Okay, so that's how to get in contact with me. If you need extra help, I also have office hours, and these hours are probably pretty convenient for us. Essentially what happens is I finish class here at, let's see, 3:45. 15 minutes, I take a short break, maybe use a restroom, and then I just end up on Tuesdays and Thursdays in room CHE 220. Now, there's one small problem with that. On week 1, that room isn't actually open. So this is going to start officially on week 2 for office hours. I put a little notice about that small conundrum on the Moodle website. So these office hours right here, 4 to 5 p.m., Tuesdays, Thursdays, they'll start next week. To make it up to you all, since I don't go to room 220 over there right after class, I'll just stick around here if you have questions today. If I run out of questions, I'll probably move over to my office, tab 268. So that's what the office hours look like. On Mondays and Wednesdays, I'll be in this room, including this week. I was there on Monday. I'll be there on Wednesday as well. Well, any questions at all, folks, about office hours? Okay, when you're getting help, whether it's office hours, whether you're emailing me or even sending me a text message, keep in mind, especially for office hours, they're completely, what's the word here? Open door office hours. You don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to even let me know that you'll be there at all. And that's completely fine. They're all completely walk-in. Also, when it comes to emailing your questions, There could be lots of different things you ask. Maybe you're working a problem and you got stuck somewhere. Maybe Alex is being kind of a jerk. You're welcome to send actual mathy questions yourself directly right to my email. I'll be happy to help out as well. Well, aside from that, let's not spend too much time on the syllabus. The prerequisites, course description, course objectives, I'll leave to your reading. In particular, this block will make much more sense once we actually get through the course. Let's talk about the course text. Maybe the best thing about this class is the textbook itself is free. It's an open courseware by the Bill and Melania Gates Foundation. And as far as textbooks go that are free, this one's not too bad. I've seen really bad ones, and this looks pretty workable. You can get this directly by going to class text. So on the Moodle webpage, it's going to be the last one right here that's visible. Clicking on that is just going to load a large PDF. You can download it if you'd like, print out certain portions if you prefer. That's a pretty big use of your printing account for ISU. So I wouldn't print the whole thing. That's like 516 pages. Then we're going to be covering these chapters. We're going to be starting in chapter 3 on functions. That's really the bread and butter of the course. We'll specialize to linear functions or applications. Then the polynomials, exponential, logarithm functions, ending in chapter 6. So that's the scope of our course. If you're going on to do other things with math, say take trigonometry, maybe take calculus, you could just keep studying this book. It's really, really long, and you get well beyond into very, very prepared for calculus. Well, that's the textbook. Any questions, folks, about it so far? Okay, back to the syllabus then. Let's see. Oh, we also have a calculator policy. The calculator policy in this class is kind of a strange one. We don't have access to graphing calculators or cell phone calculators, but there's two that are open for all exams, whether it's exam 1 or the final exam. It's the TI-30XA or the TI-30X2S. So these are the standard exam calculators. If you've taken, say, chemistry classes, physics classes, you've probably used this one a whole lot. If you're pretty good at using the TI-30XA, then I'd say stick with it. But in my opinion, it's kind of tricky. You have to know order of operations really well. You have to work inside out to get this TI-30XA to work nicely. For me, a pretty good quality of life improvement as far as calculators go is, let's open this link. This one, the TI-30X2S, very inspired name. The only reason I really like this calculator as opposed to the TI-30XA is you could put a lot of stuff in just one line here. You could just type in a very, very long line of whatever the mathematical expression is and hit enter and not worry about the finicky issues of order of operations with this calculator. This one's tricky, I'd say. Well, any questions, folks, about the calculators? Yeah.
So I have a TI-36X Pro. Is that not allowed on the exams? So I need to get a different one.
Yeah, it would have to either be specifically the 30X2S or the 30XA.
Okay.
Question over here. On not exams, it's completely up to you. Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a graphing calculator, if you use Desmos, which is a pretty good online one, then that's completely fine. I would say though, however, to add to that comment, if you feel like a calculator like this is kind of tricky, it's good to practice with a little bit. So it's just not so new when you go to an exam setting. You're familiar enough with it. Does that make sense? Gotcha. Aside from that, for homework, you can use whichever works best for you. So that's the calculator policy, and really not much to say about it. It'll decide that I do like it because this is something, it's been a while since I bought them. This is like a $15 calculator right here. And this one's probably like a $10 calculator. So there's no huge cost on that front, at least. But geez, we're done with the first page of the syllabus. Any questions so far, folks? Okay, going beyond here, it's more nuts and bolts on how the class is administered. We have the homework system run through Alex. We're going to spend a lot of time on this. So I'm going to wrap back to here. It's an online homework system. And one thing I did want to mention is when you're actually working in Alex, it feels different from, say, if you're taking a quiz or an exam. Those are all going to be on paper. So what I encourage you to do is once you start working problems in Alex, I'd get a notebook, pretend this is a spiral ring notebook of some kind, and start organizing it. You could say 3.1 is the section you're working in. When Alex gives you a problem, it's a good idea to just copy it down and solve that problem as if you were doing, say, a real exam problem. Show the step-by-step solutions and only give Alex the answer. The more you keep nice paper trail on your notes, the much more easier it's going to be to actually study for the exam. And if some section is getting a little bit tricky, you can always bring in that notebook during class, after class, or before class, and I can help you out with those problems that Alex might have been a little bit finicky with. So the more you work things on paper, I'd say the better the Alex experience is going to be through that homework system. So again, we're going to come back to this, but any burning questions about Alex at the moment? Okay, so going down below, the homework will take a good amount of time. So what I wrote quizzes here as the next component of the class, I'm not intending to take too much of your time on these. These are very short and sweet quizzes. They're also going to be take-home quizzes. So it's like a different homework as well. I'm going to be assigning them weekly. I'll release them on Thursday. They'll be on the Moodle website, and they'll just be due the following Tuesday. Usually it's going to be one problem, maybe 2 parts at most, but it's kind of a wrap up of the major ideas we've been studying that week itself, an opportunity for us to practice right away. So any questions, folks, about homework or quizzes? Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a course code that's right there.
Yes.
Is that something that we need to enter in like every time we log into Alex, or is it just to show, hey, this is the code for the curriculum that we need to have an Alex, or have access to an Alex, and then it's just a one-time thing?
Yeah, exactly, that latter part. Pretty much you just put that in one time, like you said, you'll join the class, our class here, and then never again.
Okay.
Other questions so far? Okay. Other than that, we're going to have 3 75-minute exams in this class and 1 2-hour comprehensive exam. There's a lot of stuff typed up here, but we'll be talking about these things a lot more once we get closer and closer to an exam date. So I'll leave a pin in this one right here, unless any folks have questions about exams. Okay, now let's go over to the breakdown. Alex is probably the most important thing anyone can do to be successful in this class. That system is really good about having us review as we learn new material, and it's going to be worth 20% of the entire class. The quizzes is going to be the next easiest way, I'd say, to get points, and altogether that's the 30%. The easiest way to succeed in this class is nailing this 30%. Think of Alex as the major work you're going to do to really absorb the course content. The quizzes, think of those as more like class participation. In fact, when I grade them, every quiz is going to be worth 10 points. Everyone gets an automatic 5 of those 10 points just for participating, meaning you put your name on it and you handed it in. The last 5 points are about correctness. So as long as you submitted a quiz, you've already got half of the score on them. So it's in that way, it's mainly just class participation. It's not meant to be a hardcore quiz that just knocks everyone down. And in fact, when I run quizzes like these, typically everyone's quiz grade is really, really high if you're participating in the class regularly. Aside from that, the rest, average of exams 1 through 3, the 3 exams we'll have will be 40%, and the final exam itself will be 30%. Any questions or comments at the moment? Okay, one thing I want to add that's a little bit unusual about college algebra is it's a coordinated class at ISU. Now, what that means is, although I'm the instructor, there's certain things I don't make decisions on. The course coordinator makes certain decisions for every college algebra class on the university. One of those things is the final exam. They write it, but the good news is I know what their final exams look like roughly, which means I write my exams in a similar way, exams 1 through 3. You'll see the same kind of style, same kind of problems on those. And it also means when I write my lecture notes, I'm thinking about the final exam you have to pass those questions in mind whenever I write down the lectures to help you get through the exams themselves. So that's pretty much how this course is going to run. Another thing that's a weird feature about it being a coordinated class is the coordinator writes the final, and they're also the one that decided all the problems in the Alex system. So the math department created all that stuff for us. It's really not all too bad. And the good news is I do write the exams 1 through 3. These will be mine, and they'll be my best attempt to prepare you for the math department's final exam. Well, I think we just about did it, folks. Those are all the main points I want to talk about. Oh, there's more. There's always more. Let's go to this. aside from the day-by-day schedule. So today we're designated to talk or introduce the course, talk a little about section 3.1, and this is just my day-by-day plan. The only thing on here that are firm are the actual exam dates. First one being 18th of September, and so on down the line. Final exam is going to be on Monday, December 11th. And the actual dates themselves for the individual sections, it's just going to be kind of where we end up. For example, if we decide one of these sections, maybe 3.7 or 4.2, we need a little bit of extra time, we'll take that time. And well, I think we did it, folks. That's the entire syllabus. Any questions? Yeah. The final exam is written by the course coordinator or the math department. It's a paper exam though.
Okay, but it's done.
It's done in class, yes. That's one thing I think is really nice. Our exams feel like traditional ones, so you don't have to worry about fighting with Alex to get through them. Other questions? Yeah.
So with each exam leading up to the final, are they taking here in this classroom? Are they taking it at a testing center?
It'll be right here in this classroom. Yeah. You'll have the full 75 minutes to solve that exam. But I usually bake in like the last part, about 15 minutes, really just for you to check your work. So think of it as a 60-minute exam with a little bit of extra time just baked in for double checking all the problems.
And are those exams usually, so the first one is on a Monday, so it's on a day that we don't have class period usually.
Oh dear, let me double check that.
At least I was just checking.
Oh, I think I just had a weird way I indicated week of. Yeah, it says week of 21st of August, but it's really the 22nd for Tuesday.
So it's gonna be,
They'll all be on Tuesdays.
okay,
The final exam will be on the actual Monday, however. Geez, yeah, I should have corrected that a little bit. That's confusing.
no worries,
Yeah.
I'll just go a bit confused, because I don't live in town, so I just wanted to know like what time I would need to be here again for those exams.
Gotcha. Yeah, so they'll all be in class Tuesdays, except for that one, which is on a Monday, actually.
Okay.
Other questions so far? Okay, well, thanks for all the excellent clarifying questions at the moment, folks. As promised, what I want to do right away is, after talking about the syllabus, probably a good time to wrap back around and look into Alex. I would say probably the number one thing you ought to do after class today, as soon as you can, register for Alex, take a look at a few of those problems, and you'll be considered caught up. I wouldn't worry about going too far in other than completing what we'll call initial knowledge check. But first, let's take a look at what this all looks like. Getting back to the Moodle website, everything you need really just runs through here. In Alex, you can just click directly on this link to go where you need to go. So once you have Alex opened up, if you're getting registered for the very first time, I would just click on sign up, new student. First thing they want is a class code. Now, this is not something you buy. This is the code that's provided to join our actual class. That's available on the syllabus. It's also just right here on Moodle. Oh, I guess you can't copy that. Let me try again. Oh, yeah, you can. So if you just select it, copy it, that's probably the safest way to grab that. And just write it here, paste it in. And it usually works. Sometimes they're a little finicky. Let me try this out. There we go. So it should just distribute across the dash. Eventually, it took it about 3 seconds for me. And after you have everything in correctly, if you hit continue right at this step, this is what you should see right at this page. So something about class code, it should say College Algebra Math 1143. And make sure it says actually Michael Jacobson. If it says that, then you are in the right place. If you're following along, does that look all right to folks so far? Okay, and you don't have to follow along, but usually a lot of people have laptops, so that'd be an okay thing if you're doing that right now. If you get any kind of snag, I'll be happy to help after class. So if I hit confirm right here, now they're going to ask if I have a prior login information. If you have logged in with Alex before, I think it might, for most people, be beneficial just to use that old login so you don't have multiple email addresses associated to Alex. But for the purposes of a demonstration, I'm just going to click on no. Let me just see what happens. If you click on yes, you'd just be logging in right here. So if I click on continue at this stage, now they want a registration. Let's see if we can just do a dummy account here. I'll put in Mike. Test. Just put something that's kind of fake. I don't think they can detect that. Oh geez, I should have paid more attention to the number of threes I put in. Okay, so there's my email address. You don't have to use ISU's email address, but I think for the general student, that's probably the more convenient way to go. You do not need to put in the student ID, so it might be helpful if you know it and you want to put it in, but I don't think I've ever actually relied on student IDs through ALEKS before, so you can skip it if you like. Now I need to choose a password. Let's just put in something fake. That looks secure, so let's go with that. And you do have to agree to their two terms of use. Oh, I need a number on these. 4 and 4. Okay, so after creating the account or logging in, you get taken to this page for the registration. It says you're now enrolled in college algebra. Make sure to remember your login and password. And well, that's kind of weird. They gave me a login name, mtest21. Watch out for that. Sometimes they give you strange login information. And if you don't write this down right here or just take note of it, it can be kind of confusing. Any questions about that so far? Okay, continuing on. Here's where different paths you might have different paths. If you bought an access code through the bookstore, the reminder is there's about a 30% markup. It's about $130. And buying from the bookstore, it really just means you're donating to the university in a roundabout way. If you're like me and you want to save a little bit of cash, I would say, no, I need to purchase an access code. This is purchasing it directly and not using the bookstore one. If you did purchase from the bookstore and you do want to save some cash, they should be able to accept it as a return, as long as you didn't do the scratch off on the code. So I think most people are just going to click no right here. Click on continue. Now this step is absolutely vital. So when it says choose your access length, it's to accommodate for some universities have 8-week classes, 11-week classes, but we need to go to the 18th week class so that we have the expiry be before the class actually ends. 11 weeks might sound like a good deal, but then you have to finish all of your homework before Thanksgiving break in November. And that is an extremely punishing pace to take. So I'd say everyone ought to select 18 weeks right here. Then the price is about $96. I can't go much further than this step right here, other than, let's see here. If I click on continue, I'll be giving credit card information, that kind of stuff. But like I mentioned before, that's a lot of money on back to school already. So if you're like me sometimes and your bank account's a little bit dry, there should be yet another way. Let me see here. Oh, I think I might have forgot how it goes exactly. I might have a little bit of homework after today. One thing I did put. Oh, gotcha. So you're saying on the prior page. Let me click on cancel. Oh. I clicked on cancel. It took me to this page. Add change class, college algebra. No access applied. I'm going to click right here.
3 dots.
3 dots.
Yeah, right there in the corner of your class.
Oh, thank you. 3 dots. Apply access. I think we're getting warmer. Thanks for the help, folks, so far. And this is the page you were saying here. Yes, I have an access code. And we don't want to put the bookstore one in because that's like $130. If I put down here on the website just today, this is the financial aid access code. So if you just take this, copy and paste it like before, right into access code, that should allow you to work for 2 weeks without having to pay for anything. So it'll let you get started. If you're a little bit broke on cash like me, that's sometimes a lifesaver. So let me hit continue here. And it's going to remind us we have 2 weeks of temporary access. One reminder I do want to say is when that access expires, very good, just start bugging us for money, but don't make a new account. You could lose all the progress in the prior 2 weeks. Keep on with your same account, same login information, and you'll be in great shape. So if I click continue here, we should be in business. We're in ALEKS now. So this is what it looks like from this end. So it has a lot of little buttons to click. Your class here, options to manage your class, and geez, I don't know how to make those go away. Let me just click on it and hope they disappear. Thinking about it. And finally, this is what takes us right to ALEKS. So after you've logged in, select the class to go into. This is the welcome page. It has a little bit of blurb of what ALEKS is trying to do. And there's a lot to talk about ALEKS. It's kind of a unique online homework system. In some ways, it's much more convenient than others, but it's not as if it doesn't have its own strange nuances we have to work through. So for probably the first couple weeks of class, here and there, I'll be talking a little bit about ALEKS, things to be aware of, so that we're not just trying to cram in all that information at once. But for today, let's talk a little bit about the knowledge check, the initial knowledge check, since that's probably another one of those really, really vital things to be aware about in this class. Once you click next through all this introductory stuff, you can click on Get Started. They're going to give us a lot of weird tutorials just to make sure we know how everything works inside there. I'm just going to click next through them all really fast so you don't have to go through it twice. That's a little bit rough. So here's the tool tutorial. One button you don't have is a skip button that I hope I do. Let me see, where is my skip button? Oh geez, I can't skip it. This is meant to be a real account. But it takes you through various tutorials on how everything works inside here and so on. I guess we could just go right through it. Okay, next. Sorry, going through that really fast, since if you all have to do it again yourself, this could be the worst thing in the world if I take too much time here. It's really short, almost there. Oh, no, it's not. There's a little bit more to go. But I think we kind of achieved what we really wanted to do on just registering for ALEKS. I'm probably going to leave this count alone next. Any questions or comments at all, folks, on just the registration side? Yeah, go ahead.
Once we've registered with that initial access code for the 2 weeks, when we purchase a new one, where do we go to enter that so we can have full access instead of just the 2 weeks?
That's a good question. I think what's going to happen is when you try to go back to the class, it's just going to pop up a window that is asking for that information. I don't know what it looks like exactly, but let me put down a note here and I'll have to get back to you on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Where it shows our course with the 3 dots.
Mhm.
On there, it just says it's-
Oh, I see. So there'll be just a link that says extend on that. Okay. Thanks for the help on that one. Other questions so far, folks? Okay, well, let me get out of here since we don't necessarily want to watch the tutorial being done. Let me go back to aleks.com. I'm going to log in with just my normal credentials. The reason I'm doing this is I want to just go back here. We're in college algebra and student view. I have just a little bit more tools here that gives a better tour. Okay, so back to where we were. If you just purchased access, just joined the class, you get taken back to here. Let me click all this stuff away. The tools tutorial, we kind of streamlined through some of it, but let's skip through that. Skip. Sorry, they don't give us all that button, but it won't be so bad to get through. Finally, that page is gone. And this is the one thing I really want to show everyone today. I would say if you registered for ALEKS and you've done the initial knowledge check, then you're in really, really great shape on Thursday. If you haven't quite done the knowledge check on Thursday, that is okay. But this one is kind of a long little assessment. What ALEKS is trying to do with the initial knowledge check is determine a baseline of where your skills are at. So that's important. It wants to know your skills particularly. If you have someone help you with this, then it could adversely impact your actual ALEKS experience. ALEKS might think you know more than you really do. And you may not see problems that you really ought to see to help out get through the course. So some of these are pretty challenging. Other ones, if they look doable, just give it your best shot. And ALEKS is going to try to place where you're at. So if I click on this, it's going to go through those same blurbs we said before. So let me click that away. Click on Start Knowledge Check. And this is essentially the ALEKS experience. The problems are usually right over here. Your answer is going to be inputted into this location. If you have to use fractions or mixed numbers, then you can go ahead and use those as well. I'll just put in 5. I don't know that that's necessarily correct. It's probably not. And click Submit. Think of this as an initial entry exam to actually joining the class. It's not actually going to tell me if I got it right or wrong. It's really kind of frustrating. But if we put here, this to the power of negative 32, this is something like 1/36. Hit Submit. It will just slowly move over that progress bar. It doesn't know how many questions it's going to actually ask, but this is going to take about an hour. It's something that you can come back to if you need to do so, but ideally it's good to do in one sitting. So I'd say if you can find about an hour's time to run through this, that'd be a good thing to do. One thing that's really dangerous here is you do have this button, I don't know. If you have no clue what's going on, I mean, this is a logarithm. That's like the last part of the class. It's okay to click I don't know. If you for sure feel like, I don't want to just guess, I don't know what the heck that is. But the thing you don't want to do is, please don't click I don't know on every single problem. If you did that, then ALEKS is going to assume you need all of the prerequisites to every single homework assignment feasible, and it could be quite a lot. So the more you give it an honest try on more and more problems, the more it's going to fine tune you and give you prerequisite problems that you actually might need. It's not going to bug you about all the rest of the stuff. So I'm going to click on this button that you don't have just to get out of here. Then that finishes off the knowledge check. They'll tell you about where you're at based off the problems that you answered. Again, they don't tell you which ones are right or wrong. That's kind of frustrating. Once you click on continue, then this button right here just allows you to keep on working towards the next homework assignments. We are probably not going to finish section 3.1. So if you stopped before Thursday and didn't do anything here after the knowledge check, you're in good shape. I would say the initial knowledge check is about as far as you ought to go after the first day of class. Then we're going to be talking about here and there, usually 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, on other additional things you need to know on getting through it. But any questions or comments at the moment, folks? Yeah, go ahead. It does not. So that's the good news. And one thing, just because you mentioned that, that's kind of nice about ALEKS is when you click on Start My Path, here is what the assignment really looks like. Looks like this one is a prerequisite problem. This is solving a linear equation. That's not really part of college algebra. It's more intermediate algebra. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So I would have taken the ALEKS test, so like.
Awesome.
I didn't take it.
No, you do not. If you've taken it, you're good to go.
I can't want to know what the ALEKS now because it's through my petition. I want to shut it down after like a year or something.
Mhm.
So like, do like get that score? You guys have access to it?
Well, you would have to do a new knowledge check for this class, actually. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying earlier. For each new class with ALEKS, it'll have to be a new knowledge check.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Gotcha. Other questions so far, folks? Okay. Well, so each time you click on Start My Path, it's going to drop you right to the next assignment. If ALEKS determines there's a couple prerequisites that you ought to practice first, then they'll give you that problem. And they also give you something that looks kind of like a book, essentially. You're going to know what you're getting into. They're going to show you an example, explanation on the step-by-step solution. Sometimes it's a good idea to just pause here for a moment. Don't look at their explanation, just see if you can solve it yourself, compare notes with what they did, compare answers. And if you do that a little bit of extra time, it can save you a pretty decent amount of time when you go to do the problems themselves. So I'll click on Start. all it's gonna have us do is solve this equation right here. Let's try to do this one ourselves for real. How's that sound? It's a prerequisite topic. It's not part of college algebra, but this kind of stuff can become part of the work itself. So if I was doing this problem, let's pretend that this is the notebook space where I'd be solving it. It's a good idea to just copy it in so we know what problem you're dealing with. If you had a question about that problem, you could take it to me or to your tutor. So it's 3y plus 8 equals negative 4y minus 18. It looks kind of concerning when you see this one problem here, because it'll take a little bit of time to get through. And our goal is to finish every one of these squares. There's 5 altogether. If I get this one right, I get 1 square in. If I get the next one right, they give us 2 points of credit. If I'm on a streak, they'll give us another 2 points. So if you actually know this really well, you get it right 3 times in a row, you just move on to the very next problem. If you get it wrong, you're not going to be penalized. It's going to tell you why you were wrong. It'll give you some explanations. And then you just keep on trying to fill out that bar. So the nice thing about ALEKS is if you make honest mistakes here, your score is not going to go down. You just keep on practicing till you get to the level of completing this topic. Does that make sense so far? Okay, well, let's go ahead and solve this thing. First thing I would do is distribute on the left-hand side. We get 3y. Oh, let me try again. There we go. Sorry, I'm getting really rusty on how all this works after a summer vacation. Last try. 3y plus 24 equals negative 4y minus 18. Next thing we could do is maybe add 4 y's to both sides. And if you like to take multiple steps at once, you can subtract 24 from both sides at the same time. On the left, this is gone and we have 7y. On the right, that's gone and we have, let's see, negative 18 minus 24. Keep in mind, calculators are allowed when you take this course. And that looks like negative 34 minus 8, negative 42. Negative 42, awesome. That looks nice because division by 7 is going to give me a nice round answer. Keep in mind, it's not always going to be a nice round answer. Sometimes you might have to get fractions in here. So it's not always evidence you're on the right track or not, depending on how nasty the number looks like. But division by 7 goes into 42 6 times. So we should get a negative 6. Does that look right to folks? Okay, so back over here. If this is your notebook, then really all we would do with ALEKS is just throw in the number. I mean, that's all you can do. Type in negative 6. We'll click on check and just hope for the best. It was right, so they're happy. They gave us progress. We get the next one right. We get 2 points of progress. But now we click on next, and it's just another problem of the same kind. If I mess it up, say I put something weird like that, can't be their answer, right? Doesn't even look like a normal number. And the thing that ALEKS will do is they take off credit there. So sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating getting through it. If you feel like you're in a loop, you're getting stuck, that would be a great time for office hours, sending out an email for help or anything like that. I'll always be very happy to help out. Let's also mention the other things you can use. So if you're getting help on these kinds of problems, let's see. There's resources on the right. And of those resources let's take a look at the textbook itself. Click on the textbook link. Then here's our actual textbook, the same one on the Moodle website that you may or may not have downloaded. But the value here is if I click on the textbook link right through here, if it works, it usually takes us to the actual page of the book where the problem is based. This one is not working today. Sorry about that. That is so weird. Well, ALEKS needs to clean up their act. That should have been a link to the actual book itself. See what else is in there. They turned off the calculator. They're just rude. You're welcome to use a calculator if you like. So just ignore that feature. The math department must have set that option. And also there is the message center. If you click on the message center here, let's see, what is it going to do? Probably less useful. What I was hoping for is an Ask My Instructor button. I'm going to make a really quick note on there. Ask My Instructor. It must just be turned off. I'm going to turn on an option where there'll be a link right here. It'll be roughly called Ask My Teacher, Ask My Instructor. So you can just click on a button there if you ever get stuck. It'll send me the actual problem you're working on, and I can reply with hints and things like that. So if you ever feel like you're stuck in a loop, those are the resources you can use there. Well, essentially, that's the homework system, folks. Any questions or comments about it?
Can you say one more time how we can send that exact problem to you?
Oh, that's one thing that's missing here. I need to enable an option. So I'm gonna have to, I made myself a note. I'll bring it to class on Thursday. I'm gonna put in a new option that just allows, once you click on it, it sends a question directly to me, your problem and everything together. Last time I did this class was 2019 with Alex, and I remember that being there. So it must be something the math department turned off for one weird reason or another. Other questions or comments so far? Okay, first day of class is usually kind of tedious if Alex is involved. There's a lot of extra little tricky things. Other systems like WebAssign are more direct, but they have their other problems as well. Well, let's go back to the Moodle website. And again, if you have any questions about Alex, if it's giving you any trouble with registering, doing the problems and so on, please never hesitate to ask. And I'm always going to be happy to help out. If something goes beyond the scope of what I can do, there's also the technical support page link right here on the Moodle website. But if you'd rather not be on the phone calling with those people, I can also do technical support for you on your behalf, just depending on what the issue is. Well, I guess we're getting through the introductions. We keep on going through the Moodle website. Next link is your textbook. This is the link we looked at already, calculators for exams. This one right here is the calculator I'm going to be using when I'm in class. So if I open this one up, this is essentially what it looks like. It's just a really fast calculator field here. If I have to graph something, it'll be in this location. But as far as graphing goes, I'm not going to ask you to graph something on a calculator just to get through an exam problem. That's one of the reasons the math department is keeping it to just the basic calculators. There's no need of having any kind of graphic calculator. Aside from that, there's a couple reading links here. Why Study College Algebra gives some interesting information. If you want to update your study skills, then How to Study College Algebra gives a nice blurb on study tips. And last couple of things, the recorded lectures we're recording right now. If there's anything that you ever have to come back to, maybe you missed a class, they're all going to end up inside this location here. Finally, let's say what happens when we're doing a normal class, not an intro day. Say we came back next week on Tuesday. We'll go to the current week, whichever one it is. And I'm always going to have the relevant reading posted and the lecture notes we're about to go through. If you click right here, it's a lecture notes written as a PDF. I had them posted earlier, found a typo, so that's why it says revised right here. And essentially, this is just one big worksheet. It's the lecture notes that I use, but there's a lot of extra space for putting in the answers and such. So as a student in this class, really there's a few big ways that you can be doing it. If you're a laptop person, maybe you're using a digital pen or a fast typist, you could just download these. If you would rather have a Word file, those same lectures are available as Word documents in this link. I'll be posting and updating this right here. And you could just fill them out on your computer as we start running through the class. If you rather work, say, with pencil and paper, you can print this out. So you just have the format of what we're about to go through, and you're just filling things in as we run through the class. That's a pretty good option too, especially if you're more of a tactile person. And it makes it so that you don't have to try to frantically copy down every definition like that. Sometimes they're extremely lengthy, and if you're focusing more on just solving the problems and less on copying, then that's a pretty good format for getting through as well. So that's our lecture notes. Let's go back to the course. I guess at this stage, I'm pretty much done introducing the class. Any last questions that folks would like to discuss before we open up these notes here? Yeah, go ahead.
For the lecture notes,
Mhm.
I can see the 3.1 right here with the notes for the, I guess, the rest of the week. Before, do they just post every week, or are they already posted ahead of time?
It'll be posting every week essentially, like you're saying. Essentially what happens is either Monday morning or Tuesday morning, depending on how far I'm behind on preparing for the course. That's why I'm putting my documents together, making sure there's no typos. I found one, had to take it off. And so before you come back on Thursday, you'll see section 3.2. It's probably going to be posted before 10 a.m. on Thursday at the very latest. If it's not posted by then, I've lost control of my life, and it's coming soon, but I'm just behind. Hopefully that doesn't happen too often. Other questions so far? Yeah, over here, then over here. Go ahead.
I don't know if you touched on this, but on the Alex, is like a time goal. Is that something we have to meet like every?
No, you do not. So I'm only going to be grading off completing each one of the sections. The time goal is only there just to give a sense of pacing. They say for this class, about 3 hours per week is what the typical person is going to be spending in it. And so if you notice that on a typical week, you've only been there for 20 minutes, that's why the time goal is in there, to just give you a feel how much have I actually worked on a week-by-week basis, but you'll never have credit taken off for that. It's worth 0 points on the grading system. Question over here?
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
you want to see like graphic paper or just
Desmos will be just fine. Yeah, you wouldn't need graphing paper for this class. And if there's a call for graphing paper, maybe it's an exam question where that would be helpful if you are plotting something by hand. I'll have the actual graphing paper baked into the exam itself. Well, other questions or comments so far, folks? Okay, well, so here's our Moodle website. Like I mentioned, pretty much we're just building up a huge list of resources. After we're done with section 3.1, this is not going to be a blank PDF any longer. We'll have all of our solutions from the class posted on every one of these. If you need blank PDFs, let me know. And these will always stay as the blank Word files as well for people who prefer the Word format. Then usually what I do when class starts, I'll go to my thumb drive. Everything on Moodle is duplicated from the thumb drive. Open up the notes for the day, and this is what we'll be getting into right after the class starts. So this is pretty much going to be the experience. I'm using Microsoft Word as essentially a glorified whiteboard. I'll save everything we do here, upload them, and then the lectures will be uploaded as well. Well, we've got about 20 minutes and some change. How about we do example 1 and then call it a day? Does that sound all right to folks? Okay, so we're not going to finish section 3.1, so I'd say definitely after today. After the knowledge check, that'd probably be a good time to pause. If you did go forward, no harm done, but you might get into topics we haven't quite introduced just yet. Again, that's not a bad thing, but some people find that to be more confusing than they would like. Well, here's section 3.1, functions and function notation. The first thing we're going to be discussing is not a function, something called a relation. Well, a relation is nothing but a set of ordered pairs. If we look at example 1 already, it says consider this a relation. And this is what we mean by a set of ordered pairs. It's that stuff. Right where the curly braces are, in green right here and right here, that's what we're referring to as the set, just the collection of objects. When we say actual ordered pairs, those are these ones, the -2 to 2, the -1 to 0, the 0 to 2, the 1 to 0, and the 1 to 2. So those are the actual ordered pairs inside the relation. So it says next, the set of the first components of each ordered pair is called the domain. The second components will be called the range. And we also think of the first values as being the input values. The second coordinate or the second value as being the output value. So going back to our example 1, we focus on just say 1, 2, this right here. 1 is the input. Let me highlight that slightly differently. And the 2 here is the output. So we think of an ordered pair, or excuse me, a relation, as just a set of associations. These could be numbers like we see here, there's no context. They could be people, they could be things. Say this could be a grade book. It could say student A got a grade of B, student B got a grade of C, or so on down the line. But that's what we mean first by relation. What we want to do in this example one is just state its domain and its range. First, any questions or comments? Okay, so let's start off with domain. Reading through the definitions, we said that the domain, I should go to the first part of the sentence. The set of the first components of each ordered pair is the domain. Let's highlight right there. So the domain, it will be a set as well. If this was an Alex problem, they'll print things like the curly braces very often, and we're just putting in the numbers, separating them by commas. I'll be demonstrating some Alex problems when they get a little bit tricky on how they actually want them inputted. But anyone see what the domain should be? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, exactly. I like the way you said that. This one's kind of tricky, right? One appears twice, but inside of a set, we only put in the unique objects. So we only put in the one once. The way we track through this is in green, the domain is the set of the first components. The first components we also think of as the input. And that means it's all of these values, just like you said. Let me just try to carefully highlight them. So our domain goes -2, -1, 0, and 1. The trickiness on this problem is we can't write 1 twice. It's one of those mistakes. If you did make that mistake in Alex, I'll just let you know, and then it's easy to avoid in the future. Well, the range then is kind of the same sort of idea. It says the set of second components. Let me try to do that in a better way. Of each ordered pair is referred to as the range. Let's do that one in blue. The range values we think of as being the output values for the dependent variable. And just like before, all we do is we go to the second components. They are +2, 0, -2, +2, and just record them, but no duplicates. So when we go to say range, we'll put in 2, 0, -2. Forgot to highlight that one, but we've already put in 0 once, so we skip it. We've already put in +2 once, so we skip that one as well. Means we need to delete that comma. So that's our domain and our range for this problem right here. Yeah, go ahead.
Would Alex throw the indicator to put it in whatever order?
Actually, for this situation, Alex does know that sets are unordered. They'll accept any order in this situation here. And that's a good comment because sometimes Alex is unreasonable on tiny little things. I'm going to be working in the Alex system myself to try and give you a heads up on those little things. If I find them, I'll always let you know. So every now and then, I'm just going to open Alex. We're going to do a problem like we did on our very first problem of the day, just to see how it all works, putting in your answers and such. Other questions about that one? Okay, well, we did it, folks. Again, it's kind of a strange problem. All we're trying to achieve here is getting used to the notions of what's an input, what's an output, what is the domain, what is the range. Domain is all of the inputs in green here. The range is all the outputs obtained. And these things are going to follow us throughout the entire course. It's really not relations we're absolutely after. We want to start studying functions themselves. Functions have a really interesting property that to every input, there's a unique output. That doesn't sound like much, but there's a lot to discuss with that one idea. And so the notes here, they just keep going and going and going until we finish off section 3.1. If you look at the syllabus, that should probably happen tomorrow, but we'll see where we end up. Well, any last questions, folks, on our example one for the definitions here? Yeah.
This isn't about the example, but just what we need to have completed before Thursday. Is it just the knowledge check that you give us that?
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. If you complete that knowledge check, you'll be in really great shape. We should have section 3.1 completed sometime on Thursday's class. And once that's done, I'll give an official due date in Alex for section 3.1 itself. Well, I think this is probably a good stopping point for us, folks. Any last questions or comments about anything in particular? Okay, well, when we come back on Thursday's class, we'll essentially be right exactly here. We'll start discussing functions and just go from that point. If you have any questions, pretty much what I do after class is I just pack up myself, take a small break and go to room 220. But this week I'll just be staying here. So feel free to hang around. I'll be happy to help out.